Listen, welcome everyone. Hi, so beautiful to see all your faces here. Listen, let me say this. When I was thinking about how to like curate this experience, how to curate this event, how to do that, initially the thinking was to have this be a webinar style event, right? So it'll be like Kat and I chatting with, folks kind of listening, watching, experiencing from behind a digital wall. But I think in thinking about this, there was two things that came to mind. One, there was great power in seeing the faces on screen, especially when coming together for something like this, right? Because everyone in this space, in some way, shape, or form, is either architecting community currently, or is absolutely committed to doing it and is getting ready to do it, or just at least understands the power that lies within like connection, intentional community, right? Building with others, of like opening self up to this powerful thing that is intentional community. So I wanted folks to see, so like, this is going to be a powerful experience for us to be in the space together. And like, I just want to start in the space of being like, notice how many faces are on screen right now in this space who like believe in the world that you want to build. All these people are like, I fuck with that too. I'm with that. I ride with that, right? So we're in tribe together. Dare I say colleagues together in the more beautiful way of saying it, not the crusty dusty kind of way, right? But we're colleagues in this work. We're tribe. We're community. We're in this together. And so just know that the folks on the screen are your people, and we're in this together. So, for those of you who aren't freedom readers, I love you all, and my heart pitter patters when I see you on screen. For those of you who are new to the space, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Altagracia, and I am a community architect myself and a facilitator. And I know, I trust that the ancestors have brought me here on this earth, on this plane during this time to help folks connect meaningfully with each other, with themselves, and with purpose, right? And so this kind of freedom reader space is an example of that. It's just one piece of that ecosystem of making that possible. And freedom readers was started as a book club, but I think in many ways, my spirit and my heart is recognizing that it's gone beyond the book club, and now it's a digital wellness center, we'll call it that. And sometimes we happen to use a book or a story to help us connect and to share, but really this is the safe haven, the safe space, the place for building, for dreaming, for connecting. Like this is the magical tree house, right? We'll call it that. That's what's in this space. So I appreciate you all for being here, for taking this in. I like to make sure that we settle into our seats. There's so many ways in which we connect in a digital space, and not all of them are safe or are, I would say as brilliant as this one. So I want to remind us where we are and what kind of space we are in. So to do that, I like to ground us in what I call the spirit of our space, just so like we can like really connect in like where we are in the moment. So let me just share, these are like the values of the community that is here. So as you're in this digital space, know this is the space you're in. This is the spirit, the ethos, the norms of this culture. One, we recognize that together we make a village. We understand that we move with purpose. We understand that healing is critical. And, healing and sharing from the heart is a form of healing. We recognize that we have profound truths to teach each other. We understand that, we are abundant, we move with abundance, we challenge scarcity. We recognize we have all the time that we need in this space to learn all that we need in this moment. We also move with spirit and recognize moving with spirit is the economy in this space. And so we give and take generously. And then we want to flow. So whatever comes up for you in this space comes up for a reason. And with that, I say, please keep the chat box alive. For those of you who are interested in connecting beyond the time that Kat and I will be speaking, I will stay on screen for an additional 20 to 25 minutes to do more connecting and do breakout rooms so we can like do the thing as we talk about the thing. So please feel free to stay tuned for that. Okay. If there's a phrase up here or a word that is really resonating with you in this moment, please drop it in the chat box. Give it some life, okay? Give it, honor it, all right? Beautiful. And so with that, I want to take a moment to please, to introduce Kat, okay? Yeah, this is up. Okay, so Kat is first generation Dominican American who's learned to navigate the nuances of community, identity, advocacy, self-care, and storytelling. In 2016, while living in Miami, Kat launched a blog dedicated to vulnerably sharing her personal journey of trying to figure it out while amplifying the voices of millennial women shifting the culture. Throughout the years, she's learned that her personal journey and spirit is inspired and activated when creating spaces for folks who gather with intention, love, and curiosity. In 2016, Since 2016, she's been cultivating mindful and heart-centered spaces on the internet and in real life, bringing together a beautiful community of gentle and like-minded souls. Through the Goddess Council and the community that's been built there, but also through Chats with Kat. And in September of 2021, it became clear for Kat that she was burning out, so she decided to close the Goddess Council, which had to come to an end as a way to prioritize her own well-being. Kat is also a wellness facilitator, which is something that she identifies as, which I think is really beautiful. Fast forward to last year, the summer of last year, right? Kat's first book was Shared with the World, Build It and They Will Come, a guide to architecting intentional community. I will say that when I read this text, my heart felt like so connected to Kat and recognizing like, Kat, you are a tribe of mine. So I thank you for putting this out into the world. So please, 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 can y'all give some love for Kat in the chat box?
Oh, I'm getting the chills. Like seriously, my body is everything that you have been sharing right now. It's just like it's making my cells tingle in the best way. So thank you for opening up this tender space for us and for setting setting the intention so clearly. Many of you I have not ever met, and at the same time, I feel like we are all here for a reason. And I'm really glad that our energies aligned wherever you are in the world. I think moments like this kind of remind me that energy is like transcendent of so much. And in a moment like this, where we are navigating so many uncertainties and so much chaotic energy, seeing everybody's face and just knowing that every single box is a literal human being, um, it just like reminds me that I'm not alone in wanting to figure this shit out. You know, like it can be so isolating to feel like you're sometimes the only person that cares, but moments like this remind you that you're not. Like there are people out there who really care just as much as you do. So thank you for sharing time with me and for yeah, like this is energy that you are sharing with us, and I do not take that for granted. It's sacred.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I thank everyone for being in this space because we are sharing energy across space and time. I feel like that's magic at work, right? It is. So with that, I just want to start with like the text itself, right? Like you reached this point, this moment where you said, I need to put this out into the world. What was that moment? Like what sparked for you that let you know that you need to write this text?
You know, I think it's been interesting throughout my life. Every time I'm like on the brink of losing my mind, my body's like, make something, make something, make something, like transmute it, transmute it, transmute it. And it's happened multiple times and it presents itself differently. But you know, I've always been a writer, but I've never identified myself as somebody who could write a book actually, who could actually publish a book. You know, it's just kind of one of those things where I've always admired books and authors and writers and people who enter that practice. But for me to do that, it kind of felt like something that was out of reach, but also like, well, why not just try? Because you have to do something with this energy. And the energy that I'm alluding to is that burnout energy of like being somebody that really has committed to sharing myself with others and in hopes of creating these spaces where we can heal together and all of that, but also not having known what the limits were to where I could do that and also not lose myself. And so I did lose myself because I didn't know that that's not an endless well, like that, you know, you have to tap into an energy source. And I gave it all away because I thought that's how it worked. But anyway, when I burned out, I gave myself a few months to just exist in the absolute exhaustion that comes with not having anything else. And eventually I was like, I need to document this. I need to make sense of everything that I've learned for myself so that I can close out this chapter of my life and really honor the lessons that came with not just burning out, but like, what does it mean to want to bring people together and to do it from a place of like just intention? There weren't any, books that I think really were able to break things down for me in a way that I wish I had. And so I didn't want people to repeat the mistakes that I had. And so I had this vision that I would eventually publish this book. I just didn't know when, I didn't know how. I just knew that eventually I would just have to sit down and start doing it. And so that's what I did. I just sat down and started just taking things out of my brain and putting it onto paper. And little by little, I started to feel like my spirit was getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And I was like, okay, so this is something I actually need to commit to. And so the idea for the book also found me at a really interesting personal moment in my life because I was going through a divorce and I was about to turn 30. And it was this like vortex of transformation that pushed me to yet another edge. It was like I thought I had already reached the edge, and then I was like, no, 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 you're getting closer and closer. And this book was the thing that I latched onto for hope, for sanity, for level of stability. There was like it felt like my worlds were crumbling, and I was like, well, I know that I have my mind and I have my creativity, and I have this message that I want to share. And so just commit to writing the book, and then let's see what happens after that. And I finished my manuscript, and then a few months later, I got the book deal, and so the universe has been steering this all along. I didn't fully understand that until now, really, because I didn't imagine that my book would exist in a timeline like we're existing in right now. And now I'm like, oh, this book has a message that is so of the moment that I could not fully wrap my head around. And now that, more conversations are happening as a result of the world that we are existing in, I'm like, okay, I think collectively more people are ready to talk about community in a way that I've been super, super, super antsy to dive into. And so that's a long-winded answer, but I hope that that offers a bit of clarity.
No, it does. And listen, I celebrate it and I really do applaud it. One, I think the first thing you said, that was like a word in itself. You offered when you felt in moments when you feel like you're losing your mind, right? Or things maybe feel dysregulated, you create. And that in itself, I think it's a beautiful message. And I think one that for all of us to really take in, right? Because I think this world will always try to corner us in a place where so that we forget that we are capable of creation. So we that forget that the inner creator is right here. Like this is the place. And I also celebrate the fact that it sounds like, in this space where you're constantly creating for others and creating these safe spaces, you're recognizing, oh shit, like I'm a community in one too. And like the community I built for self and my body matters, right? And so I see that there. So just know that you are seen and you are heard. And yeah, it makes so much sense. It really, really does. And so thank you for the vulnerability and sharing that. I feel like in this time, we need community more than ever. I think a lot of folks are waking up to that. And I think there's steps that lead us to that point. And so there's a lot of gratitude for your text because we need the people who are ready to say, I want to do this for others. And it doesn't have to be a large organization, right? Or a global book club, but it could just be, I want to do this for the people on my block, right? Like
Yeah.
I want to do this for my neighbor, for, the bodega owner, right? Who I see
Right.
every day, whatever it is. But like intentional community, I want to move with attention with everything, whether it's in my micro or in the macro as well. So I feel that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you started the text with an Octavia Butler quote, all that you touch, you change, all that you change changes you. So now that you put this out there and you're continuing to evolve, Kat, so like now that this text is out there, how do you feel like your identity as a facilitator or an architect is shifting and changing?
Mm-hmm. I'm at this moment where I'm trying to figure out the intersection of community and politics because, everything is political. And also I'm so disconnected from the current political landscape and also hyper attuned because everything matters. It's this like really interesting thing where I'm like, I give a fuck about people. People, 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 like literal human beings. That is my mission, to impact souls. Okay. What systems impact souls? And how do I infuse the things that I care about most, which is the well-being of people, into systems that are ill? and like how do I not lose myself in those systems?
Yeah.
And then also, how do I reimagine systems and invest my energy into new systems? It is like a I don't quite fully understand it yet, because I'm like, at some level I do have to contribute energy to resist systems of oppression, but I am so excited about just being in the creative spiritual energy of imagining something else.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where so many of us are. And so I realized too that we cannot do that without community. We cannot do that without us trusting each other, and believing in each other's ideas and congregating to brainstorm together. And that looks very different for many people, because people have different people are motivated by different things. And I'm trying to figure out, well, what is going to get people outside? What's going to get people to actually show up? And like, what are the Trojan horses that I can create, where I can create an experience that people are going to show up to, and actually give them something more profound in that space, because I already got them there. It is something I am ruminating over so much, and it feels like something that is urgent for me, and I don't fully know what to do first. And it's exciting because it feels fertile. It feels like, ooh, I am in that woo-woo space of like, just I need to sit down and let God tell me what's coming, what do I do next? And that also feels like the opposite of the fear that I think is trying to be integrated into our psyches at every given moment. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just thinking about high level things while also understanding that we can't get to the high level until we actually like start trusting each other again.
Yeah, yeah, no, I feel that. And I also hear, and tell me if I'm hearing you wrong, please. But I feel that like tension between, damn, this is a thing that I know we deserve and we want, but like I'm here. Like this is now. You know what I mean? And like
The
how do I
3D, the 5D,
yeah.
like,
Listen, I
yeah.
would say like, one, I think facilitation and facilitating gathering people is a sacred practice. And I always feel like it's the way I imagine it in my mind is like we're skating through timelines. We're saying
Correct.
I can see future, I'm informed by past, but I'm living here and I have to embody all of it at once. And like,
Yeah.
what does it mean to be someone who travels through space and time to bring people together so they are better because, right, of it?
Mhm.
I also appreciate you naming that like political piece. 'Cause I think a lot of time, first of all, when it comes to those of us who are in this tribe together, there's different roles that we can play within the community, right? Like we have facilitators who are dope and like really pushing forward the arts, and those who are really dope and pushing forward that balance with the politics and what's happening today. We have those who are really focused on like the healing aspect of it. And I think for a lot of folks, I've seen that they feel like they have to be all of it at once, but we can do
Right.
our part,
Right.
right? We can come together and do our part. And in doing our part, I want to talk a bit about like what that experience was of you like first recognizing I need to build the community that I need. I'm gonna have to do it
Hmm.
myself, right?
Hmm.
A lot of times folks think that it comes without fear or challenge. And so if they are experiencing fear or challenge, then maybe it's not for them. So I want
Hmm.
to normalize, yeah, that experience. So what was it like when you were like, I need this community and I need to build it now?
Hmm. Well, like in chapter 2, I write about goddess council and how that whole thing came to be. And that was born out of a decision. I'm from New York, but I grew up in Miami, and then I came back to New York in my mid 20s. And I I was alone. Like I had family and stuff, but the version of me that wanted to be in community was the version of me that's like, I want to find my people. And I couldn't find my people. And I write about this experience that I had on the train, and how I almost got attacked, and these dudes were around me watching and like recording because they thought I was about to get attacked, and they didn't help me. And it was this moment of absolute earth-shattering real like clarity around the fact that I was actually alone physically, and also I just felt like I didn't have people that I could even talk to about that experience. And I alchemized from that. Like I write about in the book. From the moment I got on the train to the point where I got home, I literally got home. I was crying. I opened up my laptop and I just started writing about everything that I wanted, all the kind of people I wanted to manifest, and how sick and tired I was of this feeling of loneliness, because it's a feeling I've carried with me always, which I also allude to in terms of my early childhood and stuff. But I was like, I'm over it. I'm tired of always feeling like I'm alone. I'm tired of feeling like I haven't met my people. Like, what else do I have to do? And the answer was like, just figure out how to create the container for those people to find you, because no one knows that you feel this way, and they won't know where to find you unless you tell them where to find you. And you keep waiting to enter these spaces where the people are going to be, and you've put yourself out there enough to realize the exact experience and the kind of people that you want, nobody's created it in like that, like in that way. So just do it. Like, just do it. Stop waiting for somebody to hand you the keys, because you're literally suffering. You're not supposed to be doing this by yourself. And so it really came to it was born out of a place of just being sick and tired of being around so many people all the time and feeling like I was a lonely body just moving through the world, and having these profound feelings of yearning and desire to be in deep conversation, to um, bare my soul, and to express how badly I want to change this world for the better. And I didn't have people that I could like go there with when it came to those types of conversations. And so I just I just went on Canva and I made a little thing and I posted on my Instagram. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. And I posted on my Instagram and I was like, DM me if you want the Addy. and and it was a beautiful thing. The first time, like there were like 3 women that came to my apartment in Flatbush, and it was adorable. And everybody left feeling like, wow, I've never experienced anything like this. And I was like, me neither. And they were like, you have to do this again. And I was like, okay. And then the next time, 15 people showed up, and I was like, word, okay. And then the next time, more people showed up, and I was like, wait. So I'm not the only one that was feeling this way. Everyone else seems to have been looking for this space. And if I didn't do it, I'm not sure who would have done it. And also that spiraled into a whole organization, because it turns out thousands of people really, really want that. And I tapped into something that I wasn't fully aware of at that time. I didn't realize what the undertaking was, which is why I burned out. But it revealed an underlying truth that we all want to be in community, but we exist in a hyper individualistic society that has you know, taken us away from that reality, because we're just in the nitty gritty of trying to survive. And we have a few people here and there, but we don't even really fully understand what it means to maintain those relationships. And everything is just so hard. And I was like, I have to create pockets of divergence here. Like there has to be a way where I can get people to just break out of the monotony a little bit, to realize like there's a whole other way we could be existing. And what the hell was the original question? I don't even remember, but
Just
that's
here for it.
that's
It's
where I
okay.
went.
Move with spirit. It's all right.
Stream of consciousness there.
Listen, I want to speak to like, first of all, I want to just emphasize that piece of you saying like it's hard, right? Because I think a lot of times when folks are starting this journey of like thinking about the community they want or need, they feel that difficulty, that pushback. They feel the fears coming up, and it feels abnormal. It's like, oh, if I feel that, does that mean I shouldn't be doing this? And like, yo,
Mm,
if you feel that, it means you should be doing this, right?
yeah.
And it's hard by design. Like this is supposed to be difficult by design. And so I feel that 1,000%. Like this world is designed and they curated this hot mess so that we have less time and energy, we trust each other less, and we believe in it less. I love what
Mm,
you're describing about like the putting it out there, because the phrase I like to use is that you decided to become a lighthouse. You were like, it's safe over here, baby. This is how we do things over here. This is the kind of appreciation, love we're gonna do. And so you built that lighthouse. So I also want to give a shout out to everyone who feels like they're a lighthouse. And if you do, feel free to put lighthouse in the chat box, because I trust many are see our lighthouses. So shout out to the lighthouses. With that, when we open the lighthouse up and we put that signal out there, a lot of times we need to think about who we're deciding to welcome. So when you started this journey of opening up the Goddess Council, which essentially is opening your lighthouse up and saying you're safe over here, what were the things that you were thinking of when it came to like values or like shared experiences? What kind of discernment were you using for who was welcome into the community?
Hmm. Well, at the time I was hosting these gatherings in my living room. And so I I remember putting like in the description of like what GC was or what these events were. It was just like I'm opening up my space for women who are seeking deep connection, healing, and joy. I also made it very clear what I did and did not stand for personally. What are my boundaries? What are my values as a human being? If you do not acknowledge the fact that this is who I am, and if this is out of alignment with you, then this is not the space for you. I'm literally opening up my home to people that I've never met before, which it worked out. It worked out. But when I think back on it, I'm like, okay, that was risky. I mean, I never put my address out there. It was always like there was always some form of vetting before I actually shared my address. But still, it's all a risk. It's all, you just don't know. And there were times where folks would come into the apartment and I would have to set the space and ground the space. But we're all going through different things. And the intensity of sometimes of the dysregulation that any one of us might be carrying at any given time could be more heightened than others. And so my discernment came in when I had to actually look at everybody and sense the energy in the physical space and figure out how to like literally level out the energy so that everyone was here. Obviously, like, the not putting on my address and checking to see if the person that signed up is actually, that's like the front end work. And then the putting out the like, this isn't what I stand for. If you're xenophobic, if you're racist, if you're homophobic, like all the basic shit. But when the folks were in my room in my house, that's when I started to realize just how palpable energy is and what happens when you actually get people into a space and there are no words being spoken and everyone's just sitting with each other. I'm like, oh my God, this that attuning that, like figuring out how to get everybody down to the same level so everybody could speak at the same tone, where we could all be looking at each other without any kind of anxiety or panic, being able to get strangers to trust each other in a space as quickly as possible so that we could share the things that we are not actually saying that we want to say. It is like a formula that I can't quite, there's a facilitation piece of
Mhm.
the book where I really try to explain how to do that, but it is just like a felt energy. And when you have an intention in terms of like what you want the experience to be, and you embody that, you can share that, and when people are with you, they understand what the experience is about to be. And that's why I think it's so important as the leader of any particular community, organization, group, or whatever. There are steps that you can take, but it is also energy work.
Mhm.
It's also figuring out how to manage yourself, because you are going to set the tone, the literal tone. If you are heightened, if you're anxious, if you're nervous, if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know what you want to talk about, if you don't know what your mission is, like all of that is going to play into the experience that everybody's going to have when they come together, and there's going to be no direction. And so it does require you to take on a form of leadership that is multifaceted. But the one that oftentimes we don't talk about is the energy and spiritual part of it. Um, because that's like the subliminal, subconscious, like yeah, energy that you're infusing into whatever it is that you're creating.
Yeah, I appreciated you naming that in the text. And actually, inside the book, and I forget what chapter it is, but you explicitly named some of the like the email. You put an example of an email you would send ahead of time. And it was
Hmm.
very straightforward of like, this is what it's going to look like. Here's what's allowed. Here's, what to expect. And I think there's something really powerful about that, about letting people know. I see it as like the facilitation starts the moment the idea comes up.
Exactly.
Because I feel like, to your point about energy, like the way you feel about the thing coming up is a part of the facilitation. If I'm looking forward to this dinner that I'm hosting with my homegirls and I'm like, "Ah," I don't know what to make it, what we're gonna do. Like that, I'm already putting some kind of anxiety on it. And so there needs to be like love and kindness at leading towards a thing, right?
Hmm.
And with that, you also remind me of the importance of making sure that, one, we take care of ourselves and that we are to ourselves the thing that we want to be to others. So
Right.
like you want to be a safe space and love others and build trust, but baby, you got to trust yourself. You got
Mhm.
to love yourself. You got to be kind to yourself. Like that inner voice has to sound like just that hype person that you could be for others it has to be present within the body. And I think that's a part of it for sure.
Mhm.
So I appreciate you giving me the values. If anyone listening in the space has like values you always think about when you're putting something together or values that you just hold with you, please drop it in the chat so we can share those as well. I'm thinking about too in the idea of like lighthouses, how it's not again just having to build something, but it's also you yourself represent that. And so the way you move about in the world, right, is an example of like, these are my values. Like you don't have to be creating an organization, but you could just live that way. I know I've had moments, Kat, where my experience really leaning into my identity as a facilitator, as a curator, as an architect of intentional community made me. I had these chapters where I had to look back and think back to some of the relationships I already had within my intentional community or with people who I thought were in my intentional community and had to reevaluate if like this is still aligned with what I believe in. Have you reached those points and how did you navigate those?
Like within my experience with GC or in the past.
Yeah, with GC or even outside of GC, like your experience as you evolved as a facilitator, did it ever make you look back at some relationships you've had and been like, okay, how do I get this to where I'm at now? Or is this even questioning, is this still the relationship that I want to have?
Oh, for sure. There for sure. And I think it's important to name that sometimes we are exist in certain communities and we outgrow them.
Mhm.
Some communities are not forever. Some people, as my mother loves to say, people come into your life for a season and a reason. That lady, like since as long as I can remember, that lady's been telling me that. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I get it, I get it, I get it. No, now I get it. I get it. Sometimes you are with a person or a group of people to a certain point, and then it's time to shift into the next phase of your identity, of your evolution, and you attract different people. And my problem in the past was that I thought everyone was supposed to come with me always. If I've
Mhm.
shared love with you, you're always supposed to be in my life at this capacity. I'm always supposed to be giving you this much energy. You're always supposed to be exchanging with me. And those are the relationships that when I look back, are the ones that hurt the most because there were signals along the way that that there needed to be a break, like kind of a breakup already, and that's natural and that happens. It's just part of being a human being. But when you resist that, that's when all of the other problems come along because it's like this is not in alignment with you anymore. And so I think it's important to name that even when we are in community, there can be times where you say these people I've served a purpose in my life and I want something different. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing to be ashamed of. So yes, to your point, I absolutely have been in that place before multiple times. And I think because I am somebody who has historically struggled with loneliness as much as I have, and um, developmentally for many years felt so isolated. I When I did find people that I liked and that I felt like I could exchange love with, I really didn't want to let them go because there was a feeling of like I'm not going to find anyone else. And eventually, I think that led to me having to understand that I had to have a community within myself before I could actually be in community with others, where I had to know that I am a person. Like I have me, I actually have myself. I can make a decision and do something. I can, go out in the world and exercise my agency and make myself happy and make myself proud instead of constantly um, looking to others to fill a void. And once I realized that, and I was able to honor that, then I was able to be in community with others from a place of abundance and co-creation and collaboration and um, you know I just it was never coming from a place of like I don't have enough.
Mhm.
And so that allowed me to share with people in a different way, It allowed me to uphold my boundaries because I didn't want to self-betray. Like self-betrayal is something that I try to avoid as much as I can because I love myself so much now that I'm like, wow, you have you, like, look out for you. And when you do that, the right people will be around because you've made sure that you have made it clear that you love yourself, and people will feel that when they come in contact with you, and they'll act accordingly.
Yeah, yeah. And they'll be inspired by it, right? Like I think there is something too, like shining your light so others are like, oh my God, that looks good. I want some of that. I want to shine my light bright too.
Hmm.
Well, I appreciate you naming that. One of the I always think back to like there's one chapter of my life that I know for a fact was like, yo, this was a moment when I said like I need to be very, very clear about the kind of lighthouses I'm building or the kind of community I'm building. And it was when I lost my brother. So this year it marked like the 10-year anniversary when I lost him. And at that time, I had this large collective of people I was connected to because of school and work and all these spaces I was in. But when it came to my brother passing away, there wasn't enough people who could hold space for the gravity and the weight of grief in the same way they could hold space for like the love and the joy and the excitement and the professional personal development they got from being in community with me, right? And so that it was a moment for me to say, okay,
Hmm.
when I'm building with someone, I want people who can hold
Hmm.
the weight of joy and the weight of gravity at the same of grief at the same time, because we're always going to be dealing with those things at once at the same time.
Hmm.
So that was a big moment for me in recognizing that. So I think it's in those difficult moments where we start to ask, what do we really want? And how do we want to build with people, and to be clear about that. Speaking of grief, I do know, there was that point where you had to close the Goddess Council, right? Which, listen, sis, when you shared that in the text, I felt it. And I felt the weight and the heaviness of that, but also the like, I was just rooting for you and your ability to share that because it's so vulnerable to have to share that, right? So when did you notice it was time to kind of close this collective, and yeah, how did you navigate that chapter?
Hmm. Well, it's actually just to break the, what is it, the third wall.
Mhm.
When I was trying to get the book deal, there was an agent that told me that nobody would want to hear a story about someone who failed.
Mm.
And I remember hearing that, and she was like, remove the part about your story where you talk about how it didn't work, because no, she said nobody knows who you are. And she was also one of those people, those agents that's like, you don't have a big following, like for you to even get a book deal, like you're
Yeah.
gonna have to make this book as palatable as possible for people to want
Kat,
to
she
buy.
sounds like a hater. I don't know, babe.
And it
Is
said you had been in publishing for like 45 years or something, and I was like, oh my God, like, was I naive to think that I could tell the story as it was, as it's been lived? And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna say the full story because we are human beings, and things don't always go the way you think they're gonna go. And that's what people want to hear. People don't want to hear about the perfection because at this point, I think we all know that usually when things are presented with perfection, there's something people aren't telling you because that's
Mhm.
not how it works. Nothing works like that. So I was like, the people who are meant to read this book are going to read that book and know that there's something I'm leaving out. And I didn't want to be a liar. I don't want to
Mhm.
be a liar. And
Mhm.
if I'm here to do the work, I'm trying to tell you what really happens. So you can learn from my mistakes. And so that you can also, in the event, if you have the same experience that I had, know that there's nothing inherently wrong with you. Sometimes things have to end. Sometimes things have to end. And when when I knew that Goddess Council had to come to an end, it was a reality that I was trying to put off for a while. Like I was not trying to face the truth of that because it was impacting so many people in such a positive way. And so I
Mhm.
felt like, well, who am I to take away this resource from people who are relieved that they finally found this group, this community, these women? Like, I know that's it. I made it, and I have to commit to what I've given birth to. And then there was one day where I was doing some admin work, and something very, very silly came through my email. And I started sobbing. I
Mhm.
started sobbing. I was on the floor sobbing. And I was like, oh my God, this has never happened before. My body has never fallen apart in this way before. Like I was in my body, and I was also like witnessing myself from above and being like, this is going to lead to something really bad if I don't get this under control. Like it felt like if I have a breakdown like this one more time, I'm going to end up in an asylum, and I'm not even kidding. And I at that moment I didn't realize how much pressure I'd put on myself, and also how restrictive it felt to not want to do something anymore that I felt like I had to do because so many people would be disappointed in me after I've given them a solution. Like,
Mhm.
how dare you give a solution and then take it away? And it was an immense feeling of guilt, shame. Uh, I felt irresponsible. I felt like I couldn't handle the gift that I had. It was everything all at once. And I was also going through my Saturn return for anybody who knows about that stuff. It's like, it's just,
Hey.
all astrologically too. And then I got a divorce 6 months later. It's literally my whole world, everything was collapsing at the same time. Um, and so yeah, it was when I was on the floor crying, where I was like, this is literally the irony of having a community, a wellness community where everybody's thriving and everyone has all these experiences, and the person who created it is behind the scenes, you know, crying her eyes out. Like, this is not why I started this, and it's not in alignment. And now, to the point of being a liar, now I'm starting to feel like a liar because in 30 minutes I'm gonna get on Zoom and facilitate a session, and everyone's going to go walk away from that feeling great. And when I close the call, I'm going to be in shambles like that. It felt like I was compartmentalizing. And it's how people say, like, that joke of like, I brought you into this world and I could take you out of it, when people kind of joke about like their kids getting on their nerves. I was like, I made it. I made this thing. I am the founder of this thing. This was born through me, and I can take it away, because if I don't want to do it anymore, I don't have to do this anymore. If that means that I'm going to be sick. And so it had to reach a critical point. And now, now I know that it was burnout, and now I know like the actual, mechanics and the biology and all the things that were actually happening to my body. But I didn't have an awareness of what burnout was at the time. And so it doesn't always look like that for folks. Mine was just an extreme case because I ignored the signs for so many months. But that's how it presented itself for me. Yeah.
Yeah, listen, and there's a lot of applause for you sharing your truth and your story. To lie is to, create dysregulation, right? To not have an alignment. So it's really powerful for you to share that. And I feel like for us, maybe that's another reason why I was like, oh, I feel the sister. I know she's writing this because you held space for grief, your own grief. Like you normalize grief in that space. And we do have moments where we have to not just like also experience grief because we have lost someone else or a friendship, but we also lose parts of ourselves sometimes, maybe because we have to. We also, it's just things that we lose sometimes even every day, that I think there's something about normalizing that's really, really powerful. So thank you for sharing your truth in that.
Thank you
Yeah.
for receiving it. And thank you
Yeah.
for proving that that lady was wrong as fuck. I'm so glad I didn't listen to that
Hater,
lady. Oh my God.
calling
I remember
her.
getting off that call and I was like, oh
No,
my God, I don't think
calling
I
her
don't
chief
think this is ever
hater.
gonna, yeah.
The chief
I
hater.
should email her and be like, just so you know.
Look at me now.
Yeah.
Somebody said get her.
No, I should. I should. I blocked her because I never wanted to see her face again, but I have to find out what her name is so I can be petty and be like, and I kept the story in. And I didn't, I actually doubled down on everything you told me to take out.
Babe, if you're
Yeah.
nervous, we can support you too. Okay. If you need a little, we got you.
No,
But
seriously.
right. So listen, but thank you for truly sharing that and for believing in your story. And listen, the haters are gonna be there and the ops are gonna be there always, every day. And I think the most important part for us to recognize, all of us in this space, is that we must move beyond despite that, right? There's
Right.
always something trying to make us smaller, and we still have to keep doing it. And all of this too, I think a lot of times when we think about building things and creating things, we think that there should be an absence of fear, but it's really moving through that fear in the same way that
Mhm.
we have to move through the ops being
Yeah.
ops, right?
Yeah.
You have to move through it. With that, I do want to take a moment to like, even just if you were to put in words, like the feelings that you get when you found someone who's your people, how would you describe that?
It is when you don't have the chatter going on in your head as you are talking to someone else about in that moment,
Mhm.
where you are able to I'm having a conversation with you and I'm actually just present with you. There's no other voice talking to me while I'm talking to you about what I feel is wrong or
Mm-hmm.
things that you're doing that make me feel uncomfortable. I'm
Yeah.
just here with you. And also your body. Your
Mm-hmm.
body will stiffen, your body will tighten up. Your body language sometimes will inform you before you are able to even consciously understand what's happening. And that is something that I'm now becoming more and more aware of, because to the point of what I said before, sometimes I've really wanted things to work out with people. Sometimes I've
Mm-hmm.
really, on paper, this person and I are supposed to get along. We care about the same things. Da, 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 da. But when I'm with them or when I'm talking to them, why do I find myself leaning back? Why am I
Right.
crossing my legs? Why am I, it's just certain things where it's like there's something happening that is informing me that I'm out of alignment with this human being right now for whatever reason, and I don't always have to know exactly how to describe what's off. But when it's not happening, and when I find myself opening up and leaning in and getting excited and asking questions, and they're asking me questions, and time is just passing, and I don't, and it's just like I'm not even aware. That's when I know I've entered a soulful exchange that is significant for however long it's supposed to be significant.
Feel that. I feel that. Also, I feel it too, Kat.
I'm so glad.
Yes.
I'm so glad. I'm
It
so
would
glad.
be okay. No, for real, though, I really do feel that. I feel the same way because it's a spiritual thing. It really is. I think you added some really beautiful words to describe the tangibles of it, about like body and voices in the head. I feel like I'm floating when I'm with my people. I feel like I'm flying towards them. Like I'm just like, oh, please, more of that. I do want to name
Yeah.
too, because one thing I knew I had to do when I knew I was doing this work fully is I knew I had to make that my world always.
Mm,
So, I left the institution and started my own. I built a wellness center, right, in New Jersey.
mm,
I made sure that the people who are in my intentional community, who I'm building with, who I'm saying I rock with you, they're really rocking with me. So I had to do it everywhere.
yeah.
And so that way I'm regulated all the time. And that's why I can create spaces for others. I can build a lighthouse because I take
Mm,
care of myself in a way, like you said, I love myself so much. And
mhm,
I've been able to curate an experience for me, myself and the inner child
mm,
so that I can build for others. I do
right.
recognize that not everyone can or is at that point yet. We are
Mhm,
sometimes forced to be in communities where like, instead of leaning in,
mhm,
we're leaning all
mhm,
the way back, right? So
mhm,
I just want to give a shout out to the people who still, are still navigating those spaces and say that I always say that like you have to build your intentional community. So that way at the end of the day, when you go home from work, if you have to work with crusty dusties, at least you know your people got you. Like you
mhm,
know that you're loved in that. You can be sitting in a cubicle or whatever it is, where in a classroom, wherever you're sitting, and you can say, I know my people got me. The people hear me,
mhm,
but my people got me. If you have someone
mhm,
who you feel like got you, someone who you love and you lean into, feel free to drop their name in the chat box to like send them some love through the virtual spiritual space
mm.
where they are. Okay. I want to give us a minute, a couple seconds to like gather some questions because Kat, I want to open the room up and I want folks
Yeah,
to ask
I would love
questions.
that.
So I'm gonna play some music for a couple seconds. If you want to shimmy shimmy, baby, please do. But this is a time for you to kind of gather your questions and see what the questions are coming up for you, and you can put them in the chat box. I know there's like a questions feature here somewhere, but whatever feels right for you. All right, my babes, just take it all in. Hmm.
Oh, I'm just catching up on the chat. Y'all are great.
That's right.
Karmic debt calculator? What? What? Mm,
That's right.
yeah.
Ordering the book right now.
Yeah, Saturn returns. I mean,
I was
Godspeed
gonna
to
say
anyone who's in the thick of that. But when you're on the other side, you are reborn.
that's the part.
Mhm. Uranus return. Wow. I didn't
Wow.
know we had so many. Jesus Christ.
If anybody knows about that, please let us know what it is.
Like, damn. We're just trying our best. We're just trying our best. Wow.
I knew when I said that.
If Marcos is still here, I aspire to be that person. I aspire to be like your colleague.
Also, Marcos is hella dope himself. Marcos is one of, see, now I'm gonna OD and give Marcos is one of the people I built intentional community with, and he is one of the only elder men who's actually in my community. Like
Wow.
in my men in my bio family are either dead or have been taken away for other reasons, and so he's someone who's been a mentor and someone I love dearly. And there's a lot of folks here who I feel that way about. So just wanted to give a shout out. Princess, rates up, jigs up. My bad, since you said that. Okay, questions, my loves, questions. What questions do we have? Any tips on maintaining community now when so many of us are bogged down by living in 2025 America so that we can balance our own emotions and others?
I would say don't think you have to remove the idea of having to constantly do grand gestures and just check in. Like you know, just letting somebody know that you're thinking of them, just sending a voice note, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, just sending a nudge and letting somebody know that you are thinking of them, and letting them know that they can return it whenever they have availability. I just think getting in the exercise of constantly just checking in without feeling like it has to look like a certain thing is going to remove the pressure of wanting to maybe do more than you can at any given moment, but you're also still sending love and some kind of offering of like, I see you, I know you're here, thank you for being in life with me and sharing your life with me. That's what I
Yeah.
would suggest.
Oh, thank you so much for naming, like, we don't need grand gestures, like the small things matter.
It would be nice, like when you
Yeah,
have it, do it. Because when you got it, you do it, and you have those moments where you let people know, like, I want you to know how much I fucking love you and how much I
right,
see you.
right.
But when you can, and when you cannot do that, it doesn't mean that you should withdraw or, not be in communication with that person because you're not doing XYZ. Because also sometimes it just doesn't call for that. And it's okay. And
Yeah.
your people will get it. People will get it.
I appreciate you naming that piece too about naming the thing and how you feel, because I'm not sure we're doing that enough. And so I will say, especially in times like these too, what I would add to what you're saying is that we need to let the people know that we're building with them. My balancing of like, I'm traveling across space time, I'm, in the future while in the past and in the present is also recognizing that I think about like Lauren Olamina in Octavia Butler's Parable and how like she's building that kind of collective. And I'm constantly thinking about
Mhm.
who's in my collective and whom I'm building with. And I let them know right
Mhm.
away. Like I'm
Mhm.
like, yo, I really rock with you and I want to build with you and I see this magic in you and I love it and I appreciate it. So I'm here with you and I'm ready to rock with you. So whatever you need, baby, let me know. And
Yeah.
folks know because there's a lot of folks in here who's in that space with me. And so let the people know that you want to build with them. I
Yeah.
believe in friend dating. I really do. I believe, and what that looks like for me is I will explicitly sit someone down and say, this is what community means to me. Are you ready
Mhm.
to do it with me in that way? If not,
Mhm.
that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
Something else. But if we're doing this together in this time,
In
then
this time,
this
with the
time,
stakes as high as they are right now.
come on.
Yes. No,
And
it's
let the
real.
ancestors empower us as we do this. So, let the people know that you're trying to build with them and be very explicit and allow
Yeah,
yourself to be vulnerable in that way.
for sure.
Word. Okay. I saw Thivia. What are some works, books, movies, TV, etc., that inspire you towards building community?
Ooh. In the back of the book, I do have a list of books that I recommend and some podcasts. Some that are just like off the top of my head. I mean, Parable of the Sower, if that is that is extremely relevant to this moment. Um, it is a bit, it's dystopic and all of that, but when we talk about community as a means of survival, like that book will prove to you exactly what that means. If the world ends, who are your people going to be? How are you going to make sure that you even decide who gets to be in your community? Um, So there's obviously Parable of the Sower. I'm gonna read Parable of the Talents. Atia, who I think is here, she was constantly reminding me, there you are. I know, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it. I mean, there's The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. That's incredible. I know Brene Brown, I think she's probably maybe problematic right now. I can't keep up with what's going on. I know people were pissed at her recently for something, but there is a book that she wrote that changed my life, which is Braving the Wilderness. And that book is really about being able to be in your body and in your truth and being able to walk down the uncharted path and trust that you are going to find your people along the way who have also chosen to go off the beaten path. Um, those are the books that I can think of off the top of my head. And then there's like Adrienne Marie Brown, her there's pleasure activism, but there's also my God, emergent strategy. Adrienne Marie Brown also has a podcast that's incredible. Prentice Hemphill also has a podcast that I highly recommend, that the name is escaping me right now, but I put it all in the book at the end as under the resource section.
That's a great resource. I really appreciate you doing that. I would add Magdalene Patrice O'May. That's my chosen elder ancestor. Sorry, chosen ancestor.
Mm,
When I was thinking about how I wanted to do this, I really turned to Afro-Indigenous practices. I needed to
mm,
like where I'm from, where we're from, and
mm.
what we were supposed to be doing before all this chaos happened. So all of Magdalene Patrice O'May's books I could get my hands on, I have read all of them and incorporated them into my work. So highly recommend those.
Beautiful.
Okay, I am looking at time. I want to make sure there's room and space for us to kind of gather if we want to do that. Before that happens, and Kat, I'm not keeping you, but you're welcome, babe, but
Thank
so whatever happens, I just want to say I thank you so much for sharing your light, for building your lighthouse, for being in this space, for sharing with us. I hope to see you in person one day. Um,
Yes.
maybe in the Seven Space, babe, at the Wellness Center. We'd love to see
Oh,
that.
that would be beautiful. That would be great.
Yes, yes. So please, can you drop some love for chat inside the drop some love for Kat in the chat box. Please. Emojis, love, whatever's coming.
Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for choosing to spend an hour of your time with me, with Altagracia. And yeah, I just hope that you remember that you have breath, you have the ability to impact this planet and this society in the way that you are meant to. And
Right.
there is a lot of power in that. I know that these times are leading many of us to have moments where we feel hopeless, or we feel like we are caught in a net that it was casted by somebody else, and we are victims to this society. And in many ways, many people are experiencing very tangible effects. And for those of us who have our basic needs met and we are not fighting to survive, like, in like the actual nitty-gritty way, I encourage you to use that opportunity to imagine, to create, um, lean into your creativity, to your imagination, lean into the fact that every single person has a soul, and um, everybody really can make this place better. And that's the one thing that we have left. That's the one thing that we
Mhm.
can that they can't take from us. And that's what they want. That is what they want. That is literally what they're trying to snatch. And
Right.
not snatching a soul, not snatch your soul in the best way, in the worst way, you
Right.
know? Preserve that, gatekeep that, protect it with everything that you have. And the other thing I would say too is embody courage.
Mhm.
These times are going to ask us to be courageous in many different ways, maybe in ways that we didn't imagine we would have to lean into in our lifetimes. Um, we're not here forever. This is finite. Everything is building on the efforts that we put in.
Mhm.
And so in the moments where you feel like nothing matters, just remember that we cannot afford for you to opt out. Like, we
Mhm.
really need you here. We need your energy here. We need your gift here. We need your creativity. We need your inspiration. And even when you don't think that anybody feels it, please, 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 please remember that somebody does feel it. A lot of times people just do not vocalize it. You do not know how you're going to impact someone. And oftentimes you are getting in the way of somebody's medicine, and that's not, that's not how this is supposed to be. We're supposed to be giving the medicine in all forms. It's supposed to be given away, you know?
Yeah.
Just don't stand in the way of the thing that wants to come through you. That is the essence of God, in my opinion. And we need God, light, source, everything. We need every manifestation of that on this planet and in on this timeline from as many sources as we can. We just cannot let the darkness consume us. We all need to be lighthouses. Um, and I believe that all of you are lighthouses. And I just pray to God that you don't forget that. Um, because I need you, we all need you. And I know these are scary times. I
Mhm.
know that. And I tried to be really candid about that because it's okay to feel scared, but we got to do it anyway.
Absolutely.
It whatever it is, it's going to present itself differently for all of us. But I believe that we were born for this. I believe that we all have the capacity to not just move through this moment, but to bulldoze, to make way for something better. Like
Yeah.
we really, 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 really can have something better. And our ancestors imagined the same, and that's why we are here. So many of us are here, and we cannot be the ones that end end it. You know, we have to keep the energy of courage and belief and faith and hope and radical imagination and futurism. We have to keep that. We have to keep that going. Because if
Mhm.
people had given up before us, then we wouldn't be here right now. And I just think that we just can't. We just can't. We're just vessels and conduits, and we have to remove the ego. And the ego, oftentimes, times will be the fear that tells us we can't. And we have to slay the dragon. And the dragon is all of the limiting beliefs, the that oppressive energy that tries to convince us that we are not valuable, that we are not important, that we don't have anything to share. It's not real. That's an illusion. Turn to yourself, find the God within yourself, and by doing that, you're going to see the God in everyone else. And when we magnify all of that light together, there's gonna be too many of us. It's gonna be too
Mhm.
many of us.
That's
And that's
right.
really what I imagine. They can't get all of us, but we have to find each other first. We have to be unified. We have to believe in each other again.
Mhm.
And that's what my work is, just trying to get us all together because there's power in numbers. But it's a process, and we can't show up unless we acknowledge that we are one of those people
Mhm.
first. So yeah, I just really hope you guys don't ever forget that.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much for saying that. I felt that to my core. And to the folks, if you ever have a moment where you are having a difficult time remembering, what Kat has offered, those beautiful words in this space, remember that you were here. Remember that there's so many faces on the screen. Like that is something that will guide you. I always say that like if for every person who's in this space, they are a lighthouse, they're also a seed that is planted within the garden of like liberation
Mhm,
and joy and care. So
mm,
you have probably captured something, a quote, a thought, a feeling, share it with someone else, tell someone
yeah.
about it, read the text, gift the text. I saw somebody, speaking of, there's someone in the chat box who asked about financial hardship. If you do not have the text, DM me your email address or your address, and I will buy you and send you a copy of the text myself. So just if that is in there. Um, so yeah, plant the seeds, continue, help this garden grow, please tell others,
Mhm,
share. With that said,
mhm,
I want to let folks know that if this is a space that you felt good in, and we know Kat did, right? But if this is a space where you're like, oh, I can be here, please know that you can, I will add you to my listserv so you have events that you can be a part of. You can also follow me on Alta_Monti. Kat, your cat dot Lantigua, right? On Instagram.
yes, I will
Well,
drop my IG right here.
yes, so we've been dropping in the chat while we've been talking. So if you do appreciate these kinds of spaces, please continue to follow us and learn about more. Speaking of Freedom Readers is dropping a new book club soon, or around the text, the artist way. So to Kat's point about building and being creative, this is a text that will absolutely support your journey towards being an inner creator, unleashing your inner creator. So we have a dope group of people who are, engaging in this text together. And so I'm just looking forward to that. Air horns. Yes, Courtney.
Yay.
Yes. Okay. Um, God, thank you. Mad love.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you for opening up this space. And thank you to all of you who have decided to share time.
Mhm.
Seriously, I really appreciate it.
And for those of you who want to stay on, I'm gonna play music for a second to let folks leave who want to leave. And then for those of you who stay on, we're gonna do some breakout rooms and just, play a little bit together. Okay. Okay.
Sending y'all love.
Bye, Kat.
Mwah. Ciao.